If you think Hollywood can fabricate true horror, the reality of this case will shake you to your core. That February evening in Springdale was completely ordinary, right until the moment it became a living nightmare. The cul-de-sac on Meadowview Lane was asleep. Porch lights glowed softly over manicured lawns, and the only sound was the whisper of a breeze through the trees. Inside one seemingly peaceful home, however, a terrifying sequence of events was already in motion. A downstairs light burned long past midnight. Nearby residents would later report hearing odd sounds. A dull impact, perhaps a stifled gasp, and then an eerie quiet descended. Just before dawn, a shadowy figure emerged from the garage, struggling with a bulky, oddly shaped load. He moved with a chilling efficiency, a man carrying out a grim, premeditated task. By morning, the house that had once echoed with the playful shouts of two young girls was hauntingly still. The blinds were shut tight, the garage doors sealed, and the woman who had dedicated her life to creating a happy home for her daughters was gone without a trace. What transpired inside those walls in the dead of night would soon unravel into one of Springdale's most disturbing mysteries. A tale of obsession, paralyzing fear, and the catastrophic final move of a man who believed his wife would never be allowed to leave. The journey of Anya Petrov began with a hope shared by countless others. The dream of a fresh start, of security, and of boundless possibility in a new country. She aimed to give her daughters a childhood she herself never knew. Relocating from Eastern Europe wasn't merely a change of address, it was an act of profound courage. She arrived with aspirations, resilience, and a mother's fierce resolve to construct a future from nothing. By 34, Anya had built much of that dream in Springdale. Friends and neighbors knew her as a doting mother to her two girls, aged 7 and 10, and a relentless worker who strived to provide. She was the sort of person who organized neighborhood potlucks, checked in on elderly residents, and always wore a warm smile, even when facing her own private struggles. Her love built a home, his control turned it into a prison. Those closest to her described Anya as devoted and kind-hearted. She found joy in simple details, preparing traditional meals from her homeland, helping with science projects, and filling their comfortable house on Meadowview with artwork, family photos, and warmth. She crafted an environment brimming with joy and affection. But beneath that facade of calm normality, a sinister reality festered. Viktor Petrov, her husband, presented a charming, dependable image to the outside world. He was amiable in public, played the part of the involved father, and projected the picture of a stable family man. Yet behind closed doors, the truth was tragically different. Even before their transatlantic move, Anya had confided in her sister back home about Viktor's volatile temper and controlling behavior. According to family, his anger was sometimes directed even at their children. Those aware of the situation lived in worry for her, but Anya concealed much of her suffering. Like so many in her position, she clung to the hope that a new beginning in America might change everything. Tragically, the pattern of domination didn't end. It simply crossed the ocean with them. Friends started to notice a shift in Anya. Her vibrant spirit began to dim, replaced by a quiet, pervasive fatigue. She still smiled and offered help, but her eyes often held a distant, wary look. Lena, a close friend, later told police that Anya felt utterly cornered. Viktor had repeatedly threatened to disappear with the girls if she ever tried to leave him, a fear that chained her to the marriage for years. Yet, even amidst that dread, Anya's compassion never wavered. She volunteered at the local library, shared tales of her childhood abroad, and spoke endlessly of her dreams for her daughters' futures. It was that vision that sustained her, even as the confines of her relationship grew ever more suffocating. By the winter of that year, Anya had reached her breaking point. The accumulated years of psychological torment had taken their toll, and she could no longer exist in a state of constant apprehension. She began to plan her exit strategy meticulously, setting aside cash, speaking in hushed tones with trusted confidants, and preparing to initiate divorce proceedings. She also intended to formally report Viktor's behavior to the authorities, resolved to safeguard her children permanently. On February 9th, she called her sister overseas and revealed her entire plan. She stated she was finally ready to go and would be contacting the police. Her voice trembled with both terror and a flicker of optimism. Her sister would never forget that conversation. It was the final time they would ever speak. Inside their home, the atmosphere grew thick with tension. Victor sensed the impending change. To him, the prospect of losing authority was unacceptable. Acquaintances later remarked he seemed irritable and withdrawn in the days leading up to Anya's disappearance. What Anya could not have known was that he, too, had reached a decision. If he could not maintain his grip on her, then he would ensure no one else ever could. That night, everything shattered. February 9th would mark the last day anyone interacted with Anya Petrov. In the deep hours of February 10th, while her daughters slept soundly in their rooms, an atrocity occurred inside the Springdale home. The precise details remain locked in legal files, but the picture assembled by investigators is one of brutal, premeditated violence. Prosecutors would allege that Viktor Petrov murdered his wife within the very home they shared with their 2 children. The criminal complaint included a special circumstance enhancement, the use of a bladed weapon. This was not a spontaneous fight or a flash of rage. It was deliberate. It was calculated. It was absolute. By daybreak, the house once filled with melody and life had fallen silent. The girls awoke to a world forever altered, and a community that respected Anya for her generosity and strength would soon be grieving the woman who spent her last days planning for liberation. Inside the residence on Meadowview Lane, 2 young sisters slept innocently, oblivious to the catastrophe unfolding around them. They heard no conflict. They witnessed no brutality. In another part of the house, their father, the man who had vowed to keep them safe, was extinguishing their mother's life. The walls that had once reverberated with giggles and lullabies now held only a void and the phantom imprint of unspeakable cruelty. When the deed was done, Viktor Petrov confronted the aftermath. The man who had governed his wife through intimidation now focused on managing the disposal of her remains. Detectives later indicated that what followed was not frantic chaos, but a methodical, unnerving procedure. He enveloped Anya's body in a thick blanket, wrapping it securely to hide all evidence of his actions. That very material would later become a pivotal clue, matching the object seen in the digital footage that cracked the case wide open. He worked with a deliberate coldness. Neighbors would subsequently recall faint disturbances in the pre-dawn darkness, a car door shutting, a low scraping noise, then an engine starting. In the hush of the neighborhood, every sound traveled. Around 3:15 a.m., a resident coming back from a late shift observed something unusual. The street was empty, illuminated only by pale streetlights, but one man was outside his home. Victor was at his SUV, appearing to clean out the cargo area. The witness felt a twinge of unease. At that hour, it was a bizarre activity. They had no idea they were seeing the initial phase of a horrific concealment. Investigators would later affirm this person had inadvertently observed a husband preparing to hide his wife's body. The breakthrough arrived when detectives obtained footage from a home security camera across the street. The grainy, time-stamped video from 4:30 a.m. showed a figure hauling a large cloth-wrapped bundle across the driveway. The strain in his posture, the visible heaviness of the object, it was undeniable. That object was Anya Petrov. The recording became the cornerstone of the murder probe, icy, incontrovertible evidence of the ultimate treachery. Moments later, the man heaved the bundle into the back of the vehicle, slammed the hatch, and drove off into the lingering night. His path led out of suburbia and into the sprawling, rugged expanse of the nearby state forest, a vast wilderness of dense woods and deep ravines. By day, a haven for hikers, under the cloak of darkness, it had often served as a grim repository for the aftermath of violence. Victor navigated deep into the forest, following serpentine roads until he located a sufficiently isolated spot. There, in the frigid, silent air, he opened the hatch and removed his grim cargo. No other cars passed. No one saw his next actions. He dragged his wife's remains to the edge of a steep decline and shoved them over. Her body plunged downward, lost among the boulders and undergrowth. The woman who had shared his life, borne his children, was discarded like refuse. When finished, Victor returned to the driver's seat and went home. Inside, his daughters remained asleep, unaware their mother would not be coming back. With sunrise, he commenced his next performance, the fabrication of lies. 2 days later, on February 12th, Anya's friends grew deeply alarmed. Communication had ceased entirely since the 9th. No texts, no calls, no online activity. This silence was profoundly uncharacteristic. She was always connected, especially concerning her girls. She would never vanish without telling a soul. Frightened, they contacted the county sheriff's office to report her missing. Deputies were dispatched to the Petrov residence. Victor answered the door. He appeared composed, cooperative, even concerned initially, but as detectives probed deeper, his narrative began to fracture. First, he claimed Anya had been picked up by federal authorities due to an immigration issue, a cynical lie designed to exploit fear and bureaucratic delay. When pressed for specifics, his story changed. He then said she had run off with a new boyfriend. In a third version, he suggested she'd been in a car accident but could provide no details, location, or police report. Each account conflicted with the previous. Every new explanation crumbled under basic scrutiny. Investigators quickly realized they were not conversing with a distressed spouse. They were speaking with a guilty man constructing an alibi. As the investigation gained momentum, Anya's friends came forward with crucial context. They spoke of the long-standing pattern of domestic abuse, her many pleas for support, and the pervasive fear she endured. They detailed her plan to escape and the threats Victor had made regarding the children. The illusion of the devoted family man was disintegrating, with his tales unraveling and witness testimonies revealing a history of control. Authorities understood this was no longer a routine missing person inquiry. This was a homicide investigation in waiting. Detectives scoured every lead: phone logs, traffic cameras, private security systems in the Meadowview area. Then, on February 13th, came the pivotal moment. The neighbor's security camera had captured the crucial footage from the early hours of the 10th. The video showed Victor dragging a large fabric-swathed object to his SUV and loading it with great effort. That brief clip changed everything instantly. The missing person case transformed into a full-blown murder investigation. The County Homicide Bureau assumed control. They coordinated with specialized search and rescue teams. Their mission was daunting: to comb through hundreds of thousands of acres of dense forest. Finding a body there seemed a monumental, near-impossible task, yet they pressed on. Simultaneously, a new development escalated urgency. Victor and the two girls were now also missing. Working with international consulates, U.S. authorities issued alerts, fearing he had fled the country, possibly headed toward Eastern Europe. Then, on the morning of February 18th, the call came in. A search team had spotted something down a ravine in a remote section of the forest, a bundle of fabric that matched the description from the video. When homicide detectives reached the site, they made the grim discovery. Wrapped in the same materials seen in the recording, they found the body of 34-year-old Anya Petrov. The news sent waves of grief through the community, particularly the close-knit immigrant circle Anya was part of. Candlelight vigils sprang up. People brought flowers and notes, memorializing the woman who had come to America chasing a dream of safety, only to meet a violent end from the person she should have trusted most. That same day, word came from overseas. The two Petrov children had been located, safe, and placed in protective custody. They were alive, but their mother was gone, and their father was now an international fugitive. Meanwhile, an ocean away, Victor Petrov was in hiding, moving between cities, attempting to stay ahead of the law. But the net was closing. The same technology, diligence, and international cooperation that had exposed his crime would soon deliver him to justice. She sought a better life. He delivered a final nightmare. After fleeing the U.S., Victor was detained twice during his travels, first in a neighboring country, then upon arrival in his homeland. However, without formal U.S. charges filed, foreign officials had limited grounds to hold him. It was a maddening interim for investigators who knew the truth. When Victor finally landed at a major international airport, local police were waiting. He was questioned, and the children traveling with him were taken into protective care. Still, lacking an extradition request, he was released, a free man, while his children were handed to social services. Over subsequent days, the case garnered media attention on both continents. Public outcry grew, demanding accountability. Back in the United States, prosecutors worked swiftly. Detectives compiled a massive file of evidence: the surveillance video, witness statements, forensic reports, and Anya's history of reported abuse. This dossier was presented for formal charging. Shortly after, the district attorney filed one count of murder with a special weapon allegation. An international arrest warrant was issued. and Interpol disseminated a red notice, flagging Victor as a wanted fugitive globally. The hunt intensified. For nearly 2 weeks, Victor remained at large, but his world was shrinking. His face was in databases, on border alerts, and in news reports. Finally, under mounting pressure, he surrendered. He walked into an Interpol office and turned himself in. Official footage showed him handcuffed, head bowed, being led away by officers.
"You will remain in custody abroad as the complex extradition process unfolds, a procedure that can take many months. Once finalized, he will be returned to stand trial for the murder of Anya Petrov."
If convicted, he faces a potential sentence of 25 years to life in prison. For Anya's family, the protracted wait for justice continues. But after an agonizing period of fear, searching, and profound loss, there is now a tangible hope that the man who destroyed her life will be held to account. Justice for Anya Petrov is on a long, arduous journey home, a journey powered by the love of a mother who sought peace and a community determined that her story will never fade into silence. If this exploration of a profound human tragedy resonated with you, please support our channel Winds of Thought by hitting the like button. It genuinely helps us continue bringing you these deep dives into the stories that matter. Thank you for watching.